I guess start off by telling me where this project started for you.
I got a call from my agent, and he said there's a project about the tsunami, and right away I thought, gosh, is that right to tell that story? Is it going to be a spectacular disaster movie? That scares me. And, you know, given the amount of lives that were lost, it couldn't be right. But then I heard it was Juan Antonio directing it, and I knew he was a proper filmmaker, so I kept listening, and then I read the script, and from 5 pages in, I knew I had to do it. It was a really well-told story, and that's because it was all based on the truth. And from Maria Bellon's perspective, she was right there involved in the script writing process, and it was blow by blow, her experience and her family's.
I sort of began when I sat down with my agent once and asked him to run through a list of young, interesting directors that I might not have heard of before or knew about. And he rattled off a list of names of directors from South America and Europe and America, and Juan Antonio Bayonna's name was on that list, you know, and he sent me a copy of his film to watch, The Orphanage, which I thought was an incredibly smart film, really, for someone's first feature film, really quite an incredible piece of work. And I was impressed and wanted to work with him.
The first time I ever heard about it, I was in Billy Elliot in the West End, and I was getting ready to go back to school, back to normality, begin exams, and it just popped up out of the blue, really. I went for my first audition and met Hotter at my first audition, and we had this really strong connection while working together, and it was very quick. It wasn't something that we had to work on. Immediately I felt very comfortable around him, and even though his English wasn't very good at that time, but yeah, it was a very quick audition process. It was only about 6 weeks auditioning, and whereas Billy was about 2 years. So after about 6 weeks of auditioning, I was straight into drowning in a water tank.
Obviously, the tsunami scenes in this are incredible, and I really don't know where the practical effects end and the CGI begins.
Yeah, there's very little CGI, actually. You'd be surprised how little, because they used models, little miniature models for the wave, and that was, I mean, a big undertaking, but I think it was down to the fact that there was not enough money. CGI is very expensive, but on top of that, it makes for a much more real vision and image, and I certainly, in terms of acting, it was much better for us. If we'd been in the studio with a green backdrop, flailing about, we wouldn't have had the same reactions. You know, we were there guzzling water and fighting for breath. You know,
I pretty much did all of my own stunts. There was a few things that we weren't allowed to do, only about 2 or 3 different stunts. But yeah, I mean, I really wanted to do as much as I could, because even though the stunt people are the best in the world, you can always tell that that's not the actor, that's the stunt man. So I wanted to do everything I could, and so did Naomi. So we really did throw ourselves in at the deep end, and it was that thing that, like, your body tells you that it's all going to be fine, you can just go for it, but your head's like, hang on a minute, let's just sit back and see how this turns out. But we were able to switch that off and just completely ignore our instincts and go for it.
There's something I found very impressive about the fact that we don't get a ton of time with the family, but we feel the family growth sort of grow in the back and forth, even when they're not in the scenes with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, when you meet the actors that are playing with your family, how do you sit down and build that family dynamic?
It's important in this film. I mean, if it doesn't work at the beginning, if you don't believe in the family or you don't empathize with them or care for them, then the film's not going to work at all. So it was very important in this one. And he did it very cleverly, the director, in that he gave us lots of time with each other at the beginning. And a lot of my work was with the little 2 boys, the youngest guys, Samuel and Oakley, and partly we were in rooms reading scenes and acting out scenes and slowly letting them see how that happens they'd had no experience of acting at all. And partly it was playing table tennis with them, or kicking a ball on the beach, or going swimming with them, or boat trips, and just letting them be familiar with me as I was becoming familiar with them. And I liked them very much. They were really sweet little kids.
I met Maria before we started filming, and it was a really special meeting, and I was nervous. I thought, gosh, I want to ask her so many questions, but I don't want to upset her or make her relive any more suffering than she's already endured. And so I sort of sat there and thought, where do I begin? And luckily she was the first one to speak, and it just poured out of her, and we were instantly connected and bonded, and will be for life. She's a powerful woman. It inspired me a lot.